Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Kungpaokenny Podcast. Today with me, I have a new guest. Today I have Donnie Chell, or Elevated, a content creator for Dota 2 and for Valorant, and he's a fellow writer with me at Dotabuff. So, Donnie, if you could introduce yourself for a little bit to the audience, that'd be great.
Sure. What do you want to know? I've been making content in esports for like 5 years now, maybe a little bit more. I've always been a gamer. Like I was playing, StarCraft 1 and custom maps. And actually Aeon of Strife, which is like
the precursor. I remember that.
I played that and like the DBZ mod for StarCraft, Brood War, and stuff like that. So I've just always been a gamer, and I started doing esports stuff back in 2016, writing for Liquipedia, and I actually went to TS6 with them and helped write articles and edit for their blog and like the team previews and stuff like that. And then moved on from that to working briefly with Game Leap to develop a YouTube strategy for them, and then was sort of like the content director for PVGNA, like a Game Leap competitor, guide site competitor. So I did that for like 2 years, and then after that started DotaAlchemy, which is like sort of my own project that I started with Jenkins, who had been a content creator for PVGNA, and we did that for 2.5 years.
Yeah, it was about 2.5 years. I was been watching that content for a while.
Dude, it was just 5 years were just such a blur because we put out like I think 560 videos.
You guys put out so much content, and DotaAlchemy was such is so cool. Like you guys put out so much content. Anyway, so that's actually the meat of really what this podcast is going to be about, which is you doing DotaAlchemy, because I feel like that is like I wouldn't say it's the defining factor because you guys still have a lot of life to live, but I think DotaAlchemy was
who I am.
DotaAlchemy is a huge part of what I wanted to ask you about. It's sort of like your baby. You and Jenkins made that baby. So first of all, I think you
I'm not sure who was the dad. It doesn't really matter.
You attributed to it. You said it yourself. You guys produced what? It was like 560 videos over 2 years.
I think so. It might have even been more. I don't have the access to the back end of
more
the YouTube channel anymore, but it was definitely over 500. And I mean, we tried to do daily content for like 2.5 years. We didn't quite do that, but we were pretty close.
You were pretty close, yeah. And that is a lot of work for just you and Jenkins. So like, was the operation really just you two, editing, writing, everything? That's crazy. So
yeah, we actually sorry to interrupt.
No,
we hired like a couple different contractors briefly for certain periods. One of the guys was an editor that we had worked with back at Pugna for a little bit, and they helped some with the editing, but we could never really find the correct workflow because for us, because it was so much content, a lot of the time it was literally just like I wake up, I play like 5 games of Dota, and I'm like, oh, I have an idea. Okay. And then I just record the video and then upload it. So there's really no place there for an editor to do anything. And even after we started to kind of do a little bit more editing, and Jenkins came in as like a super raw content creator. Like he would just turn on his camera and talk basically. And initially I was the one editing his videos, at least at PVGNA. And then he started to develop his editing skills through some other projects that we were doing on the side, and he became a very consistently good editor himself. But then we each kind of had our own editing style, and again, it's just one of those things where it's like you can find the right editor to get them to teach them how to edit like you, but it takes a while, and when you're on such like a grueling schedule of putting out stuff, you just don't really have the time.
Yeah, and I think that's sorry. Continue. I don't want to.
Sorry, it's just kind of a conundrum because it's like you need an editor to free up time, but you almost just don't even have the time to get an editor. So.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting because I feel like because just from my perspective, just starting out as like a content creator, I only started doing this like a few months ago, and even like, I can't imagine the gruel of doing content daily. That means coming up with this creative idea every single day that's different, right? And like being able to publish that. And I think a part of it is that creating content itself is not an easy process. I think whenever people create content, you're putting a part of yourself out there for the world to see. And I think no matter what, whether it's like singing or dancing, the things that are considered more outwardly, or even a guide about Dota 2, there's some part of yourself that goes into that, right? Could you talk about that and like how that has affected you positively or negatively?
Yeah, I mean, so I kind of want to like just address the whole process of creating daily content first, because it kind of depends on what your space is, like what niche you're going for. For us, the reason that we were able to do that is because there was basically no educational content being put out about Dota.
Okay.
You know, Purge, of course, is like the grandfather of all Dota players to some extent, but he had transitioned like 2 years prior to that to basically just doing like VOD content. You know, he like plays the game, his editor uploads it onto his YouTube channel. He wasn't really making guides anymore.
No.
So there was just nobody making guides. And that gave us a lot of kind of wiggle room to work with, where we could just kind of, you know, wars, okay, this hero, okay, this role, this position. Like there's a lot of stuff that we could just talk about. And so I think that would be a lot harder to do today, because the amount of educational content creators has really kind of exploded.
Yes,
you know,
it has.
BSJ doing stuff. You've got like
Game Leap is
even
you
like
guys.
No Tail, Opsin are putting out content. Arteezy just started a YouTube channel. Like it's really gotten kind of congested in the space of people looking for Dota content. That is,
I think Gamers Class has done some really good stuff in the educational space lately.
Too.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. So I don't know. It definitely was like the right time to do it. But going back to your question, as far as like putting a piece of yourself out there, like that also it has to be the right time. For me, I was definitely still really kind of growing as a player. I definitely learned a lot of stuff about the game itself as I was creating content. And I was playing a huge amount of Dota, like 7 to 10 games probably for that period of time. And so I was constantly learning stuff and then putting that out there. And it was really nice to have those ideas be validated by people saying that it helped them. But then, you know, sometimes you put out a video, it's like, hey, look, I carried this game in this way. And people are like, oh, well, you suck. And this would never work in my MMR.
Every day.
And so there was definitely a bit of a trade-off there. And then there was also kind of a weird juxtaposition between myself and Jenkins, where he is like this, you know, very, very high-rated semi-pro player. And then I'm just like, who am I? Right? Because a lot of esports, at least right now, is who's popular. It's the best players in the game. Basically, that's it. And you know, there are streamers, of course, but a lot of these streamers are also ex-pro players. So like that's like kind of the easiest way to have a name for yourself. And when I say easiest way, it's not an easy way, because you have to be in like the 0.01% to get that audience in the first place. So for me, it was definitely a little bit more difficult to build that brand, and I think I definitely still suffer from that today, because I mean, if I had gone on creating solo content by myself, I still think that Jenkins probably would have surpassed me, because he just is better at the game and better at making content because of that to some extent. And so, you know, it is interesting, and every single video you put out there, there's always kind of like this moment where you click upload and it goes out, and then you just like stare at your
I get that every time. There's like every time I upload a video, there's always that hour of anxiety that comes with it, and I'm like, you regret all of your life choices. You're like, oh, why did I even do this? What is the point of all this? Anyway, so you mentioned a trade-off, and I think that's a really, really interesting term to use, because I think constantly putting yourself out there on a daily basis, I think, leads to burnout very quickly. I think no matter what, when you do something every day and you put your heart and soul into it, at some point it takes a lot out of you, right? The trade-off becomes imbalanced to what you're putting into it and what you're getting out of it. And I'm sure that, and I think Jenkins also mentioned a lot in this video, or even you mentioned that there were certain phases in this 2-year period where you guys had to carry each other, right? There were certain times where you were going through a lot of issues and you couldn't produce anything, which is, I think, once you create content, you start to realize that drought comes more than most people realize, and you guys had to like carry each other, through and through. Could you describe some of that experience and like give like a realistic view on what it really means to create content every single day and doing it like that with another person?
Yeah, I mean, so part of the equation, and probably the most important part of the equation, is like where you are in your own life / your expertise in the field that you're making content on. Yeah. And I'm kind of like I've always been sort of an analytical nerd. So whatever I'm doing, I really like to kind of dig into what works and why it works. So I've been doing a lot of just kind of general research on YouTube, and I look at various random channels that are completely unrelated to stuff that I do. And there's this one dude named Meet Kevin, who's like an investor finance guy.
Sure,
he does like stock videos and also in like real estate investment, and he puts out like 8 videos a day. Like, no joke. He's been doing 8 videos a day for like 2 years. And
are they like long? Are they short? Like
they're like 10 to 15 minutes.
8 of them every day? 15-minute videos?
It's like 4 to 8 videos a day.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, the output is absolutely bananas.
Yeah.
But he obviously loves that so much, and he's created an ecosystem in his life that basically allows him to just kind of like it. I think the content is basically integrated into his day.
Yeah.
Where like, because he's an investor, so he like reads something about this stock, and then he just makes a video about it. So it's like he's already doing the research anyway for his own purposes of investing, but then he just shares that knowledge with people. And it's not like he does any crazy editing or anything. It's literally just him talking to a camera, talking about something.
Very bare bones.
Yeah. But I think that is the only way to realistically do it, is you have to basically make content about basically your life. I think that's why vlogging works, like the daily vloggers, like Casey Neistat, all these people have worked, is because if you're vlogging about your life, like you're just going through that life anyway, so it just kind of like becomes content.
For sure.
For me, it's like I'm playing 7 games of Dota a day. I might as well make a video about one of these. Hopefully,
that's true.
And some of this like 7 hours of wasted content.
That's actually very interesting insight. Yeah.
But the problem does arise there, especially in something like Dota. Is like, what if I lose 7 games?
Oh yeah.
Right. Yeah. What did I learn? Did I learn anything? Do I suck at the game?
Yeah.
And do I know anything about the game anymore? Because that was always the biggest issue, is like the times that we would kind of like, I would make 2 or 3 videos in a row, or Jenkins would make 5 videos in a row. It would always be because the other person was on a losing streak. And usually the losing streak is also correlated with, maybe stress in your life, whether you're not able to pay rent, or you're having relationship problems, or something like that could be going on. Because that's usually a huge piece of like winning Dota games, is your mentality.
Yep, absolutely.
So it's all correlated. But basically, if you've lost 7 games and maybe like you got in a fight with your girlfriend, do you really want to make a video?
No,
like,
that's fair.
Yourself?
Yeah.
No way. So like that was kind of the biggest issue, is that so much of our self-worth of the content was related to our success in the game. And as we all know, Dota's a pretty cruel mistress in that regard.
I think that's like a learning experience that any player. I think Dota is really interesting because you mentioned the investor, right? And I feel like the difference in Dota and like any other content, sort of like investing, is that when you make content about Dota, especially if it's educational, it's directly tied to how you do in the game, right? And what's worse is that how you do in a game is directly correlated with a number, which is a very direct black and white view of showing, hey, you're better or you're worse on this single day. And I think a lot of the times, especially for whether it be content creators or Dota players in general, we really get locked up in the MMR sometimes, and that number really defining whether or not our self-worth and how much of our day goes well or how much of our day goes bad. And I think that's like a really tough thing to go through, especially, and in addition to that,
terrible way
to live your life. It is a horrible way to live your life.
But it's just reality also for a lot of people,
and I think
included at times.
It takes growth to like be able to get yourself out of the funk. I think I've definitely gotten better at it. Like the losing streaks have been reducing as time goes by, and I'm usually a pretty streaky player, so I think it's also really important to recognize when you start like losing, and it's time to let go for a little bit, maybe try something else. Okay, so moving on from that was really insightful. I think another thing that you mentioned specifically in your video when you were leaving DotaAlchemy is the fact that you said that there is some sort of difficulty with packaging Dota 2 content, especially on YouTube. And, we don't necessarily have to keep this to YouTube. It could be Twitch. It could be, any new platform that's going to come out with, Twitter, Facebook, blah, blah. You say that even DotaAlchemy videos, which I thought, don't get me wrong, they weren't bare bones by any means. I think they were very interesting and they were fairly well edited. Do you think that these videos still lack the full package? And you use the word full package. So, could you give me a reason why you think a lot of these Dota 2... Do you still think so for a lot of the new Dota 2 content that's come out? And what is your like dream package of what this educational content would look like?
Well, I mean, content creation, it is kind of an art form, right? Mm-hmm. So to some extent there is like an art to and like an individual art to each thing. Somebody's gonna paint a picture with this type of stroke, somebody's gonna paint a picture this way, and they're gonna look completely different. And I think the same thing goes for content creation. So it like Jenkins's current channel, if I just use him as an example, is I think some people would say that it's like very bare bones editing. Yeah, because it's basically just like the game and him talking, and then he'll like put some
it's pretty bare bones, yeah.
But it's his style, right? Mm-hmm. And it's actually become a very like good style of editing because it's snappy and it keeps the content flowing very easily, and it's very easy to understand. And then you take it, I don't know. You take, let's say, one of those like cinematic montage channels, right? That type of like whether it's a frag movie for CS:GO or like even back in the day like the Dota FX channel or whatever,
all the way back to like Woe Dota or whatever.
Right, exactly. There's like so much more editing that goes into that, and like the transitions and like the music syncing and all sorts of stuff. And so it really does kind of come down to what you want. And I'm a little bit more of a perfectionist when it comes to that side of things. So like I want to find the right music to edit to. I want to make sure that my cuts are clean. I want to do this because I just like the way that looks. And I'm also not that good of an editor either. So it takes fair. So it does create some issues there. I think that what I had envisioned for like the perfect Dota content is a little bit something like kind of what like the pro guides and like the skill capped or whatever other guide channels do, where it's got a little bit of that like ESPN vibe. I don't know if you watch sports, but
definitely watch sports.
Like you have like the shot with like maybe a couple different camera angles on like what's being, and like the camera rotates through.
Definitely.
The analyst like draws an arrow on like this, and then you can like superimpose like what if this happens. Like I would love to do that, but if I was to do a video like that, it would actually take me like a month.
Yeah, that's fair.
And that's obviously not feasible unless you're getting like 1 million views per video. Like you can't support yourself spending a month on a video unless you're getting a very, very high amount of views. So there's always, again, a trade-off of how much effort you want to put into each individual video versus your overall productivity versus your actual like monetary compensation for the time spent.
Okay, that's fair. So again, if you had $1 million, it would be the ESPN type video. It would be transitions on everything, different angles.
For me personally, for me personally,
that's cool. That's cool.
Totally.
Okay, so now I think we've moved past this the DotaAlchemy part of your life, and now you're still doing a lot of Dota content, but now you have picked up Valorant as another form of as another subject of your own content creation. So could you tell me a little bit how you made this transition and why you find Valorant so interesting?
Yeah. So I mean, towards the end of DotaAlchemy, it's not like I just kind of like threw away.
No, you didn't, do you?
A whim.
No.
It was like I just kind of stopped liking the game. I think the last 6 months of the patch that we were on was like the worst Dota that has ever been played, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I thought it was so boring and just not fun. I like didn't have fun playing
anything. As a bit of a tangent, how do you like the new patch right now?
I think it's pretty fun. I don't think it's very different than the last one, which is a little odd, but there is some like more nuance to it, and just because there was this big patch, people are experimenting more with the meta.
Yep. I think people are doing different things.
Yeah, so there is definitely some different stuff happening, which is exciting, and I'm sure that if this patch goes on for another 12 months, then I will probably hate it. By the end. But that's just how it goes. It's one of the reasons that I started playing Dota again to some extent. I basically was playing 7-10 games a day, then I went down to like 4 to 6, and then towards the end of DotaAlchemy I was playing like a game a day, and then a game a week. And then once I moved on from that channel, I basically just didn't play any Dota for like several weeks, and I was totally fine with that because I thought the game sucked. I really thought the game sucked. It was not fun. It wasn't worth my time.
That's fair.
And so it's just whatever. And during that time, here comes Valorant. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't like Riot.
No, me neither.
I've always been kind of a Riot hater because I was, Dota 1, Dota 2, this is my legacy. And anyone who had anything to do with League, I thought was just a joke.
That's fair.
But I also thought that Valorant was kind of cool because I think that CS:GO is like it's a fun game, but it's old. CS:GO is super old. Like even though it's on CS:GO now, and then there was CS Source before that, it's still 1.6 basically. Like,
CS:GO is very 20. Yeah, like I can't look at CS:GO and be like, oh, this is like the colors, just like the way it looks, it's just like.
Dude, I'm old now. I'm like 30.
Yeah.
So taking out people on like a
that's what
us too.
Yeah, I can't see anything. I agree. Like it's very and it's also just like I think so this is a bit of a tangent, but I think I view like kind of games sometimes the same way, where it's like there's the flashy new kind of thing where it's like I would put Valorant, League, anything within that area, Mobile Legends, Wild Rift, even what's it called? Even like Smash Ultimate in there. And I think you have like this set of you have like this set of like older games where it's like Melee, CS:GO, and I feel like Dota is the same thing where it's like the people who are in it are really in it, but like it's really difficult to get through the barrier. And I feel like the skill barrier for CS:GO is so high that I've never been able to look at it and been like, hey, it doesn't look good. B, it's so complicated. I don't have the time to sink into this. I already play Dota. Like, what? There's no way. Anyway, continue. Sorry, that was just a tangent.
Yeah, I mean, so like I played 1.6 a little bit, but I was never into PC first person shooters. I was a massive Halo fan. Like I played thousands and thousands of hours of Halo 2 on Xbox Live back in the day, but then I just never got another console, so I never played any more Halos, and I just kind of turned into a Dota fiend. Once you're a Dota fiend, there's nothing else. But since I was losing interest in Dota and Riot was coming out with this game, I was like, I want to at least give it a shot and see what it looks like. And the first, the teasers for it, I was like, this kind of looks dumb. Like it looks kind of like it's just trying to copy Overwatch. I saw that there was a game that was like, it was like CS:GO in sort of the gunplay, but it also has like this MOBA aspect to it. Yeah. And I've always thought that there's sort of a next stage coming for like these 5-on-5 esports style titles where it is FPS, it is VR. Like you live as the character in the game in a 5-on-5 battle environment. Yeah. And to me, Valorant seems to be like kind of that next step towards that, where it's kind of a MOBA because you have these individual characters that can be comboed together in interesting ways, and yet you are the first-person shooter. So it's like you almost have a little bit more agency over your character because it is an FPS. And so I really like the fact that, just because I'm playing a support doesn't mean that I can't, frag out.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas in Dota, it's like if I'm picking Crystal Maiden, I'm going to end up like 1-16 every game if my team sucks.
And I think some part of that. Yeah, actually, and I think some part of that is that like in between this, in between the creation of Valorant and the, from MOBA to Valorant, and this transition was Overwatch in the middle, who I feel like tried all of these things really new, but then couldn't get some of the aspects right that I feel like Valorant has taken from them and been like, oh, this is how you properly do it. And I feel like it's really, because I feel like when I'm playing like Mercy in Overwatch, you're just okay, I'm just healing somebody, I'm just standing there, I'm doing stuff. But if I'm playing Sage or something, yeah, you can heal, you can revive, you can put up walls. There's a lot more agency, as you said. I think that's a really interesting aspect of it.
Yeah, and I've actually played quite a bit of Overwatch. I thought the game was very fun. I was a huge fan of TF2 back in the day.
Yeah.
And so that style of objective-based team shooter was appealing to me. But I also, just kind of lost interest in it.
That's
very,
fair.
Like spammy and
I feel.
And so Valorant was like a punishing game that also seemed to have all this like other potential that I thought a lot of, it's fairly dominated by CS players, but I don't even think that the CS players have really realized like how much potential a lot of these agents have. Even like the pro teams, I think that they're missing a lot of the stuff that like a MOBA brain could bring to a team.
That's very interesting
in terms of strategy.
Yeah.
And so that's really cool and exciting to me. And then I just, I played a bunch of it and I thought it was really fun. And once again, I'm going to give you guys a little secret on content. if you want to get started, if you want to make a name for yourself, you don't have to be a pro player. You just have to find the content that is missing on YouTube and make that content. So what did I do in Dota? As a complete nobody, I made educational content because there was zero educational content. Yeah. I look at Valorant. Oh, cool. There's lots of pro players on stream highlights.
Yeah.
Montage with gameplay highlights. There's no educational content. Guess what I'm making? Educational content. Being searched for in a new game. Educational content.
Yeah. That's really good advice. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. Wow.
But obviously you have to like making that content.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. It's not the key to everything.
Find some random category. Unless you actually like it, it's not going to work.
Okay.
If you can find a niche that you enjoy and it is not heavily populated by other people, then it is very possible to be successful on YouTube. Even now, even though, 1 million subscribers is seen as like making it finally on YouTube, whereas it used to be like 50K or 100K or something like that.
Okay. That's cool. Okay, so I think I'm getting to the tail end of this, so I do want to ask one final question from you. And it's going to be switching back a bit to the DotaAlchemy discussion that we had before. Now that DotaAlchemy has lived its life cycle, you've created, it's still live. I'm saying as you know it as Elevated and Jenkins. You created it from the ground up with him, and all the way to the point where you sold I don't know if you guys sold it or you guys gave it over to pro guys. I'm not really sure how that went down, but anyway.
Yeah, it was transferred.
Okay, it was transferred. That's fine.
Yeah. I'm not sure what the exact
that's fine.
Stats.
Don't worry about it. So I just want to ask, were you satisfied with the legacy that DotaAlchemy left behind? Like, what do you feel like you got back from this project? What's the trade-off? You gave off so much. What do you feel like you got back?
Am I satisfied? No. I'm happy with the amount of stuff that I learned.
Yes.
And the confidence that I developed in myself as a content creator, because I would never jump into a game like Valorant where, I'm not gonna lie, I suck. Like, I'm like very, very average at this game.
Okay.
I was never really a first-person shooter player.
That's fair,
on PC. Yeah. But I still think that I can make good content because I think that I'm a pretty good content creator.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy with that. I learned a lot about editing. I learned a lot about like myself as a creative person, and kind of found that I really do like making content and teaching people stuff. Like that is what is really, it's kind of what keeps me going in this space.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be honest. I had no idea what I wanted to do coming out of college.
That's fair. I'm in the same position.
I thought I was gonna be a professional baseball player, and then I got hurt and just wasn't good enough, and so that was down the drain. So I had like a degree, and then I went and taught snowboarding for a while, and then I was just kind of like trying to do random stuff that I enjoyed to see what actually happened. And after a while, I ended up, oh wait, I actually enjoyed gaming. Let me try that. And so it was never like I'm getting into esports because I think that like this is my calling. It was like I like gaming, I like esports, I have a sporting background. I think that I could make some sort of positive impact in gaming by bringing whatever I have to the picture. And so that was my goal with DotaAlchemy. It was basically just like try and teach people the game that I liked in a way that was like positive and helpful.
You just wanted to be positive and share the love of Dota 2 to other people. Yeah.
And so I think that we did a pretty good job of that. But over the course of growing, I really wanted me and Jenkins to work a LAN together. Like that was one of the biggest things that never happened that I really wanted to have happen. I thought that the two of us really could have like, casted a TI and done a very good job.
I agree. Yeah.
I liked it. So I definitely have some sort of like lack of satisfaction in that regard. And we definitely made a lot of mistakes along the way. I think that we could have probably like 2 or 3x the size of the channel if we had made some slightly different decisions or been a little bit more on the same page.
Do you mind like noting like one major mistake that you feel like you learned from? Because I feel like mistakes are the main propeller for getting better at anything.
I'll give you 3 actually.
Okay, sure.
So the first is that we, despite having 2 people, which creates some issues as far as like having a cohesive voice in a channel, I think it's still possible to do it, but we also made like 50 different types of content.
That's fair.
And what I mean by that is like, yes, they're all guides. Yes, they're all about Dota 2, but we had Heroes of the Week, which a lot of people liked. We had the Meta Report, which a lot of people liked. We had our tier list, which a lot of people liked. And then we had like a smattering of like 50 other types of videos. We had carry content, like blah, 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 blah. There's too many different things. So when somebody searches for a carry guide and they come to our channel and they watch the carry guide and they like it, and then they subscribe, and then they come back the next week and it's like 5 support heroes. They're like, what is this?
Yeah.
So there was like too much disconnect from video to video to where we like had a brand, but we didn't have a brand at the same time.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So that's number 1. Number 2 is that we should have started a second channel or even a third channel instead of putting everything that we did on DotaAlchemy. For our podcasts, for our replay reviews, putting them and streaming them on our YouTube channel, I think actually kind of tanked the channel and the algorithm.
Interesting.
And you can clearly see it that as we started to stream more and more regularly, our average views went down because they were being pushed out by YouTube less because the watch time percentage on our channel was lower because we had a lot of longer videos that were not being watched by as many people because they were very specific replay review for Patreon people that a lot of the general YouTube
okay
give a shit
that
about.
makes sense. Yeah,
that was definitely a pretty big mistake. And mistake number 3 is just simply like not taking a break.
What a good piece of advice, man.
Like, I mean, dude, if you want to look at it in super kind of like visceral terms, Dr. Disrespect gets banned from Twitch, comes back, literally 10 to 20 times the amount of viewership.
Yeah.
XQC, same shit. Every time he gets banned, he comes back twice as big. Tyler 1, etc. Like, taking a break as a content creator does not matter. And unfortunately for us, we were in a place where every single month was a struggle to support ourselves. Like, Dota is not a good game to support yourself through ad revenue because the vast majority of the people who watch are CIS and SEA, which has a very low CPM or RPM, which means that even if you're getting 100,000 views, you're making like 50% or 30% of some of these other games or channels. Like if you want to make a lot of money from ad revenue on YouTube, you make a finance channel because those ads pay like 10 times as much as a gaming ad does, basically.
This is so interesting.
This is just like widely available information if you do enough research into like how YouTube works. And
I haven't looked enough into the algorithm. I'm definitely gonna understand it. Anyway, continue. I didn't want to interrupt you.
That's okay. So, unfortunately, taking a break was a little bit hard for us to do because we had to put out a specific number of videos every month to be able to actually pay rent.
Yeah.
And that doesn't really allow you to ever take a break. We were never actually saving money and being able to, like, you know, I'll take a vacation for a week. It's like, if we don't put out these 6 videos, then we'll be, you know, $200 in the red or something like that, which is unacceptable if you're
that's really rough. Yeah.
But I think that if you can get to a place where you can put out, you know, build your brand and then stop and then come back when you feel ready to put out good content again. Like the quality of your content will degrade over time if you are always grinding. And also there is like a false scarcity that happens when you're gone, where people want your content and then it's not there. And so it's like a very fine line to balance, where if you're not there for too long, they'll forget about you and they'll move on to other people. But if you take like a 2-week break, that next video that comes out, people are gonna be like, thank God they're back, right? And then as long as it's a banger piece of content, that will definitely skyrocket your views and potentially your subscribers and just overall brand in general.
That's actually some of the best insight that I've gotten about content creation, like the entire time that I've like started. That was really good. Thank you for that answer, man. I learned a lot. I hope other people can learn a lot too. Yeah, actually, I think that comes up to the end of the actually, one lightning round question. Favorite Dota hero, sir? And why?
At the moment,
dude, we can do both. Like, you can give me your favorite agent in Valorant and why, and favorite Dota hero and why.
Okay, so my favorite agent is the one that has not been released yet. It's the one that's coming out.
Isn't it like invisible and invulnerable or something like that? I only read the description like a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it was leaked, and I don't want to be the person, like, you know, disseminating leaked information.
Okay, for sure.
My favorite agent has been Omen since the game came out. And this new agent reminds me of Omen, but like cooler.
Okay, that's fair.
And so it's like I like that stealthy, high movement potential, like outplay style of agents. So that's my favorite Valorant agent. In Dota, it has changed a lot over time, actually. So I have 1,200 games of Bloodseeker. That has been my favorite since Dota 1, which a lot of people probably will hate me for saying.
Hey man, I have a lot of games on Tinker. Like, you don't have to. I'm one of those people. I'm one of those people.
Yuck. Everybody unsubscribe to the channel if you hit that button. Definitely unsubscribe.
I've grown up and moved on. I'm trying to get Tinker off of my most played. Like, I'm trying to move that down so I play other heroes more. I've reformed. I'm a different person now.
That'll probably never happen for me. He's way too above everything else. But I would probably say, like, Bounty Hunter at this point is my favorite.
Bounty Hunter's a really interesting hero. Okay.
It's like bounty. You know, I'm one of those players. I want to make the other team just fuck.
No, you just want to be annoying, and that's fair. Like,
so miserable.
That's fair.
Hero Breaker, Protector. These are all heroes.
I love it. I respect it. Well, I think that comes to the end of the podcast. Thank you so much, Donnie, for giving your time and your information. This was very informative. I hope you had a good time too. And with that, I'm checking out. Thank you guys very much for watching the episode. I'll see you guys next time. All right. Subscribe for sure. Yeah. Okay, cool.